Good afternoon. Welcome to LinkedIn Live here with Bird Barrier. We're going to do a quick introduction to optical gel for you today. This is going to be an abbreviated version of optical gel just to get a taste of what the product is about and how to install it properly. For a more elaborate explanation, especially for pest management professionals that are joining us, we are doing classes all the time and much more involved podcasts and webinars on this product. But next week we have a class coming up. If you're interested and you're in Northern California, we are going to be doing a class on August 14th from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Bass Pro Shop in Manteca, which is just outside of Stockton. So we have sign-ups coming in each day for that, and we have plenty of space available at this point. But a much more involved presentation on the product and able to get a little more into the sales aspects of it. But today we're going to talk about the product itself and how to use it, how to install it properly. First of all, the product itself, in general, it allows just about anybody to do bird work effectively. That is one of the keys. This is an amazing product, optical gel. If you're not familiar with it, of course, I took the lid off here. Always remove the lid, but this is an amazing, simple solution of natural ingredients, and it gets a real potent effect on the birds. Optical gel has been around we're on our 4th year with this product, and we've seen tremendous growth, not only for the product itself, selling it, but of course with pest professionals growing bird work just from this one product. What makes it such an exciting and effective tool is that when it's installed properly, and we really emphasize installing it properly, that it's not as simple as it might look in terms of the prep and cleanup, which is critical. But when installed properly, it's a very effective, low-cost solution. Why the end customers really like this product, though, is that the results are immediate. They see immediate results, while at the same time the product itself is hard to see once it's installed. Very low profile. And visually, especially in residential or in retail locations, you really don't even notice the product is up there like you might see other products like bird spikes and things like that. So visually, it's much more in keeping with a nice, clean look for retail aesthetic locations. Birds are unharmed, non-toxic, low cost. Those are really good, strong benefits to the end customers. For pest management professionals, though, it's very easy to use, therefore low labor, therefore projects are much more profitable. Another thing that we're seeing, though, with pest management professionals, especially for, let's say, termite specialists, if you specialize in termites, but some of your customers also have bird problems, well, this can fit into the route work that you would normally do for the technicians who hit 12 or 13 sites in a day. Well, this is something that can be managed into that process. Therefore, all pest management professionals can offer optical gel as a solution. What exactly is optical gel? Again, it's natural ingredients, but what we emphasize is that it is classified as a multi-sensory deterrent. And when we say multi-sensory, what's going on is not just the visual. Of course, we call it optical gel because primarily the product causes a visual trigger to the bird. Separate of that visual trigger, especially for reclaiming that can happen when birds are going back to their nesting site, is there's a smell component and then also touch component that come into play. Now this next slide coming up here, I'm going to show you, we're going to break down the science of optical gel. We start with the visual components. Birds can see UV light, and the optical gel intensifies the UV light. Now, I'm going to show you an example that we use in the class here. I've got basically a light that is high level of UV. Black light generates ultraviolet light. Now, if I put it on the desk here, let me take the lid off again, and we shine it on the product itself. Probably these cameras are picking it up, but you can just see the amount of contrast and the intensity of what's going on here. Now keep in mind, humans, myself, you, the viewers out there, you're not going to see UV light in the same way. You don't detect UV light, but birds do. So this is sort of the contrasting effect that we're trying to demonstrate using this direct source of UV light. The way that the birds see the UV light, though, it goes beyond just the light intensity. There's a depth, there's a lot more to it for the birds. They use this for their plumage and other reasons in their biology. Either way, when they see this, it triggers a fear response. The fear response then causes them to avoid the product altogether, and it's an instinctive response. In other words, they can't really think about the process. When they first see it, they're going to react to it and fly away from the product. That covers the visual component. Now, as far as the smell component, that's our next slide here. We cover the smell. One thing is that the birds recognize pheromones. And the pheromone involved in the disc is really about the pre-treatment cleanup. It's not directly going to affect the pheromones. The pre-treatment that we do for this destroys the pheromone trace. Then what's left in this product when it goes in is citronella and peppermint oil, which are both natural deterrents for birds. So instead of having the pheromones that draw them in and make the site familiar, now they come in if they challenge what they see, and which is often the case with birds that are in the middle of a reproductive cycle. They're driven a lot more heavily into the back to reclaim their site. They're going to react to the smell. Now, if they go one step further, then we get into the touch component. The touch is pretty straightforward. It's sticky material. Beeswax and agar is sticky, and if they get this on their feathers, they're going to have to clean off their feathers. It's a natural printing anyway. Birds have to keep their feathers incredibly clean, oil-free, nothing sticky. They have to be able to operate their wings very efficiently. With this stickiness, they know they have to get that off their feathers or feet. And with the smell components mixed into it, along with this visual glow of the product itself, that experience is memorized. And the most important thing that happens in bird control that you should always strive for is the resident birds that live there abandon the site. Okay? One last point on the slide there, that bottom line, if you take a look at it, no harm like other gels. So some gels that have been used in the past tend to trap smaller birds. That's one of the downsides. You might be able to trap a bird and it gets stuck in there. And we've seen cases where customers are really upset that the birds get harmed through that process. This gel is not like that at all. The beeswax, it's sticky, but it doesn't trap birds. So that's really important. Now we're going to take a quick look at the product itself in action. This is going to be a quick view of optical gel. Keep in mind this video that we're going to show here is available online that you can show your customers. I'm assuming that the video is playing. Yep, okay, very good. So Bobby, just let me know, our director in the back there, just let me know when the video ends. I apologize. On my screen, I wasn't able to see it, but you get the idea there with the reaction of the birds. We can see what the birds are doing, and it's, again, this video is available on YouTube, so it's called a quick view of optical gel, and it's a very good tool that you can use to show your customers. So, okay, video ended. That was a little bit rough, but I apologize. We're going to move on now to using the actual product. All right, this is going to be much more interesting here visually in the studio for you to look at, probably on this screen here. We're going to talk about the discs themselves and how many you should use. Now, take a look at the slide first before we get into this pad here. Spacing is most critical on the nesting areas. 6 inches maximum, okay? What we mean by that is the space from one disc to the next, center to center, should never be more than 6 inches if you're dealing with a nesting site. Otherwise, 10 inches. So we're going to treat this, this little pad right here as an actual nesting area. Okay, let's pretend that everything in the orange area had overhead protection on this area and birds are nesting on this area. We want to make sure we use 6-inch spacing. And one of the easiest tools we have is right in the box, ready to go, and that is the other disc. We place 3 discs together just like this. We take out the middle one. There you go, 6-inch spacing. Very simple. And of course, you could use the lid. As you're removing the lid, you can use that as your spacer and continue this process. What about the entire area, though, here? We want to make sure we maintain this sort of 6-inch spacing. Well, you're going to want to cover this whole area, because if we leave it as it is right here, we're just going to see that the birds are going to move to either side, especially in the nesting area. So covering the core area in a 6-inch spacing pattern, you can use your judgment on it, but this is what the box is all about. On the box itself, as you see on the slide, that little indicator is on every box, and it's showing the spacing and what is proper. Now, this here is, of course, a nesting area, but perhaps something like this might be even a better use. We're adding one more extra disc. This isn't a huge cost, but on the nesting area, we want to be very thorough about this. This is your whole key to the spacing. In other words, if you leave the staging areas that lead to the nesting alone, but you treat the nesting area very well, you're still going to have some good results. You won't get the best results. Best results are going to be involving this area here where they're nesting, along with the staging area, and then this area here, the 10-inch spacing can apply. I'm going to show you a quick little example of how that would work with these discs here. We showed you earlier that one disc is the 6-inch. Well, you can use 2 discs, and there's your what we usually consider the maximum distance that you would want to place discs apart. So we just repeat this whole process, right? You're getting the idea, the 10-inch spacing, and then we can just eyeball it here. In general, something like this, right? We want to space them as evenly as possible. It's not as critical as the nesting area. We see how much coverage we have in the nesting area. This will take care of that staging area. The birds are trying to get to this area when they're returning to their nest. They may wander around a little bit and explore this area as a more comfortable place than they're nesting. But the point is, once they realize that this nesting site is no longer a viable solution, and especially if they had eggs or nest in this area and it was treated, they abandon this site. So that's your key to the spacing there. Hopefully that's a helpful view of the product itself. I'm going to leave these discs for some other demonstrations here afterwards. Now, as far as the placement strategy, though, we want to give this example here. Where does the optical gel belong? Well, optical gel belongs where the birds place their feet. If you keep that mentality on the product, you're going to understand and get much better results. So in other words, the birds are going to land on this structure up here, and they're going to place their feet up here. So that's why we're putting it where the birds place their feet, especially in that final destination of the nesting area. But you want to focus on the staging and nesting areas where they place their feet. Some people think that you're going to just place discs around. Let's say there was a wall up here. You could place them this way. That's really a waste of optical gel. I just know from experience. It certainly doesn't hurt to throw some extra disc into a site, but what we don't want to see is things like this. This photo on the left is just an example where somebody thought that you would place them up on the wall because optical gel will create what we call a no-fly zone. Well, no, optical gel does not create a force field that birds will not fly through. They will fly through. They'll actually fly next to and over the disc. So they're not going to be completely repelled out of a complete area. They're going to investigate. And the point is that by putting it where they place their feet, they're going to abandon that site. And there's your secret of optical gel. Not for solar panels either. You wouldn't put this around the base of a solar panel. The nesting area is underneath the solar panel. And then also not dock door openings. I just had a customer this morning from Texas asking about dock doors, wanting to put this along the bottom of a gap in the dock door. The birds are going to fly over. If it's not their final destination where they're going, they will fly over the product. One example, though, of no-fly zones, I'm going to point over here to our studio. In this area here, we have this product called Eagle Eye. These are a couple components of Eagle Eye. And the reason why you might think of a no-fly zone is because of a product like this. This product does create what we call a no-fly zone. Eagle Eye will put flashes of light over a given area, reducing the overall flight activity in that area, usually used in junction with another deterrent, usually in junction with solving nesting at the location where Eagle Eye is used. So those are the kind of things that we teach in our class next week coming up, is what all these components are for. We're focusing on optical gel today. I just want to make sure you know where to use it and a couple places where not to use it that are common. Do you ever glue these to the wall? Is that ever the case that you would glue optical gel? Well, for woodpeckers and swallows. The reason why, that's where they place their feet. So in other words, woodpecker and swallows will actually mount their feet to the wall, like we see right here on this slide. This is an example of woodpecker where they're putting their feet, and why not put one right in their face? And with that close proximity to it, it is effective. In this one case, they are facing right up next to it, but they might actually brush up against the optical gel, which is something right away they don't want to do. What about darkness and the light, putting this in direct light? It's effective in any level of UV light. We take a look at the slide that I'm showing you next. That is an example of where optical gel was used very effectively. And we could see all around there's only the artificial sources of light. Those lights that we see, the fluorescents, give off plenty of UV light. Now let's talk about the product itself and the packaging. How many discs are in a box? Well, this box here that I've been pulling from today is your standard 24 box, right? In addition to this box, we have a contractor box that has 200 in, and we see a picture of it here on the slide. That's a nice big box, easy to open, easy to install a whole lot in high volume. Again, keeping your labor cost down is very important. That's why they're arranged in that configuration that we see. So now what I'd like to tell you about is how to install the product properly. This is very important. When installed properly, I mentioned it earlier. I want you to take a look at this next slide here. That is a little indicator that we have in every box that was a result of people not following instructions properly. And it's just a reminder that you need to pre-treat the area properly before you install the optical gel disc. How do you pre-treat properly? Well, that's what this next slide is about. We have a starter kit. I'm going to show you some components coming up, but I want you to watch these steps. As a matter of fact, at the end of this slide, if you want to do a screen capture or take a photo of this, this is your go-to as far as instructions on how to install. Number one, we're going to spray Dissolve It on contamination from nest to ground. Now, Dissolve It does come in the starter kit. And then you allow that to soak in for about 20 minutes. Then after that, you're going to scrape up all the residue, double bag that. You're going to throw everything away, all that solid residue. Then you come back through and you're going to rinse everything down really well with water. You're getting rid of all this dissolved bird dropping mess. If you have a power wash system, that's great to use. But if you don't, the starter kit, the bottle will work just fine. You fill that with water. While it is still damp, you want to spray diluted bleach water. The bleach water is just the combination in the starter kit, 1:10 ratio. We've got it all pre-measured. It's very easy to use. And then you allow that bleach mixture to completely dry, and then don't rinse it. After you've done those steps, then you're ready to go. But the most common failure that you're going to see in optical gel, if any, is the improper surface prep. I'm going to pull out some components of the starter kit just to show you this again. In each starter kit comes the normal 24 box. You'll have also this bottle of Dissolve It. It's filled halfway with Dissolve It because it's a 1:1 ratio, so you bring it up to full, and that's ready to go. You also have the adhesive needed. I mentioned the bleach earlier. So this little bleach pod here, I'm going to go ahead and pull this out, and we see there's also a dust mask and gloves, but you professionals out there, you want to make sure you use your good PPE for this. But here is the bleach pod, and it's just a simple packet that you're going to tear open and pour into the bottle At that point, at that stage in the cleanup, you're just adding it to the water, and then you're going to set this to mist mode, and you'll be able to spray over the area. All the components that you need for the starter kit all come together for a very simple way. And again, the model we talked about earlier with PMPs being able to carry it with them, this is your tool. The complete tool is the starter kit with those elements. With those, you have a potent tool to take with you for any route work. Keep one of those in every van, you're good to go. All right. Now, as far as attaching the disc, we have a few options available. With the starter kit, I showed you that it comes with the glue, and you just simply glue the disc and place those down. And the adhesive that we recommend is White Lightning, which is a removable adhesive. In some cases, especially in the hot areas, you're going to need to use something more permanent, especially if it gets really hot in Arizona, Nevada, places like that. The gel itself is rated up to 158 degrees, so we're not going to have any problem with the gel, but it's the adhesive that might give way. So you want to consider that on less sensitive areas, and again, we remove the lids. And then other options as far as installing is really cool. We've got the magnetic, and here I have a sample of a magnetic one for you. Here's a little metal plate I have, and you can just see the grip here. It's a very strong grip magnet. It's going to hold without any problems, any kind of weather situation, and then you can pull the lid off. You can just see how strong that is. And then the last method that we have is the zip tie version. And we have possibly some new developments on this product coming up that we'll be talking about soon. But for now, what we have is this zip tie version. You can see how great this will be for attaching the pipes and things like this. I'm going to do a quick demonstration of exactly how you assemble that part, because what it is the zip pack comes with a zip tie and then these self-adhesive base mounts. So you're just going to peel off the adhesive mount and you're going to stick it on, and that's solid. The adhesive is very good. And then as far as attaching the disc, it's very simple. Just slide it through the slot and of course around the pipe or whatever you're going to put it on, and then you're going to just pull it tight and it's going to lock down very well. That's a very cool tool that we have. I love using the zip tie versions out in the field. One cool advantage of those is how quickly you can pull them tight. You're off to the races, and if birds are in an area where they're going to return right away, you don't have to worry about the birds actually moving the disc while the glue is still setting up. That's one thing to consider as well. Let's take a look now at a video that shows in the field somebody doing an actual install. This will be very helpful for you. Okay, so we playing? Okay, very good. Okay, so that basically took you through the whole process here. We see we're gluing on some disc. One thing that you're noticing is this little cavity is where the nest was. Of course, that was the nesting area. And 6-inch spacing underneath is the way to go. Make sure we cover this area. In a second here, he's going to move to the top. And you'll notice a slight difference in the spacing. And again, that's because it's a perching area as opposed to nesting on top, so we can spread it out a little bit further. Be careful though. Look, when you have an area where birds are landing, you're better to fault in the direction of too much optical gel instead of not enough. But as we can see, the finished product, it's fantastic. Much more clean look, especially from the ground. And that gives you an idea of exactly how to use the install. You saw they were using the same components of the starter kit. And that's the dissolve it, the bleach. You noticed also early part of that video that they were clipping off spikes. You want to be careful not to damage. If there are previous spikes wherever you're doing the work, you want to make sure that you're not having any other problems with pulling off spikes too hard. You might cause damage. All right, here's one of the great most common, if probably statistically most common. How long does the product last? There's a very important answer to this, and we're going to tell you, right, optical gel lasts 2 to 4 years, but there's a caveat, which is well beyond what is needed to solve resident birds. People will ask you, well, this stuff's not going to last very long. Let me tell you something about the life of this product. We're now going into our 4th year, and we have seen all of the jobs are holding up very well. And there's a reason, because the resident birds have vacated. They've moved on. Within about 4 to 6 weeks, the birds have to make a decision. Either they're going to reclaim their nesting site or they're not, and they're going to fly somewhere else. Well, once birds have abandoned, they're not coming back. The product itself, being made primarily of beeswax as the main substrate, it survives. It's a natural, it's got natural preservatives, so it survives cold, heat. Again, the silicone might melt, and that's something you have to check on, and the discoloration of the product from oxidation is normal. It doesn't lessen the effect of the disc, because by then, over time, the resident birds have abandoned. I want you to take a look at this next, and we're going to show you some example of a few projects before we go. But this example here is my favorite optical gel, one of my favorite. We have one that we just did last week that's probably going to be my new favorite that we'll be showing you soon. But this particular site, what I love about this location is it has all the components that the customer wants out of bird control. And that is no bird droppings, no birds, and no deterrents visible. That's the ultimate goal, especially in residential and retail like this site. In an industrial complex, and in a commercial building where nobody really cares about the aesthetics, of course, it's not required, so those elements. But optical gel is really one of the strongest parts of it is its residential capacity and retail capacity. That's where a lot of this is being used. In other words, it's being used in the sight of the final customers. And in those areas, the aesthetic really does matter. Let's take a look at a few other examples. I'm not going to give you too many of these, but there are examples here of different jobs. This little box that you see on here on the slide is basically indicating the fact that you can place it on one side of the ledge. Like if we take a look here at my table once again, these discs, if this is the side where the bird droppings are happening and the customer doesn't care about the other side, usually the roof side of things, then of course you're just going to place them on this ledge here. And then typically where you're placing it on ledges, these are not nesting sites, these are roosting sites. And the birds are getting up on this ledge to get a good view down to look for food opportunities. If we look at the slide once again there, if you notice on the one that says parapets on there, down below are trash cans. And this is a common thing that birds look for. They might be looking down at food sources. You can get away with just covering one ledge, one side of the parapet ledge. So that's what we're pointing out with the photos like these. Just get you an idea what it's about. There's a few more photos. You get the idea of where these can be used. Here's another one with skylights. Signage, of course, has been a real strong part of optical gel. The sign industry and branding and marketing people really love this product because of the improvement to the brand image and signage. Spikes on signs, as we saw in our little video, is really not a good idea. It can be effective in some cases, but in general, from studies we've learned, the sign industry just does not like to see that sort of thing. Here we see a few more little residential types or small business type situations. It's very common to see these. This last slide I want you to take a look at is an example of what's possible if we get you a starter kit and you can go out and do a little test for your customer. And we really encourage you to use the starter kit to do these type of tests. Spikes with birds nesting in them, that's a good candidate if you see something like that. But this one slide here I've got, it shows before and after photos from a particular site where a free sample test actually did sell the job. Failed bird spikes undermine the credibility of a lot of people out there who don't really know exactly how to use it. Oftentimes when we see spikes like in the photo of this slide, that's the customer is just buying those spikes and they don't have enough knowledge about the behavior. But what you want to do is always document your before and after and then use isolated areas. If you're going to do a test for a customer, you're going to use an isolated area where you can monitor the droppings, really what it's about. That's how you're going to measure the activity. If there are no dropping activity in a particular spot like there was in this test, then you have your proof of concept, especially if you don't actually capture what we're going to see in this next video. This next video is the example of that site that we treated, and at the end we caught this activity here coming up, what we call the optical gel shuffle. Okay, there you go. It was great. I was, of course, at that site when that happened, and then just to see the reaction of the customer when the birds were flying away after all those years. They had been dealing with birds at that site of that video for 14 years. Here's another example of a site that was treated, and we love this example. We use it in our training. But you look at the before and after photos there. Now, unfortunately, the tech didn't get the worst of the before, but to the left was the corner where most of the nesting was going on. But you get the idea. These can be really intensely filthy areas, and the after, of course, did the trick. Now, I just want to pull out some bullet points next. On this next slide here, it's going to be some important facts that I want to cover before we finish. Claimed facts of that project was that the customer wanted all the birds gone. That was the first thing when I got the call and they said, hey, we have this site, they sent me the photos. We want all these birds gone. We don't want to see any deterrents, and I've never used optical gel, but I'd like to try it in this area. So most importantly, if there were any questions, he knew to call us, right? He called us, we gave him good instruction. All those instructions were followed, including one thing. Don't ever guarantee you're going to get rid of all the birds. What we're going to do is get rid of the resident birds and reduce the problem, and we're going to actually guarantee that we're going to significantly reduce that abnormal activity. In the customer's mind, that's what they want. They want the site to return to normal, and in their mind, they're not even thinking you're going to get rid of every bird in that entire area that's ever flying in there or in the future. But those birds are normal to come in there. It's this high level of droppings that's abnormal. After they did this treatment, within a week, the birds were completely gone. The customer was absolutely thrilled, and of course, the installer made very good profit off of the job. So once we got the ball rolling with this product, we then got a call from PMP Magazine asking for examples, and that was the example that we referred to. We just had PMP Magazine call this guy, and they did their own interview. They asked him, they didn't really take our input in it. They just wanted to hear from this customer, and he gave us rave reviews. Of course, his customer gave him testimonial and great reviews as well. So that's what we want to see. When installed properly, optical gel is a very effective, low-cost solution. At this point, questions and answers. Of course, in live formats where in our webinars, we can take questions at this point, but in the comments below of this video after you watch it, please feel free to send us any questions. We're here to answer questions about this product, what the opportunities are. Again, if you want to come in for training, just, you have many ways to contact us, but primarily we want you to go to the website, birdbarrier.com. We have all of our information on training, classes, podcasts, and our social media out there. You're going to see alerts, and you want to sign up and get into our system, get into our network. We're going to help you grow your bird business, especially with this product. We have such great stories. This product has changed not only our business here at Bird Barrier, but we've seen companies that never did bird work. One in particular in Arizona just is the standard of achievement with this product, because within 6 months they were just outpacing regular bird crews, and they had never done bird work before. They were primarily a termite company that did a lot of general pest, and now they have 2 vehicles doing nothing but bird work, and that's what we want to see for you out there, your pest management professionals. My name is Michael Gallion. I am business development person with Bird Barrier, and you can reach me anytime. I'm here to talk about optical gel and any of our other products. I look forward to seeing you in training classes coming soon. Thank you for your time.